Hello and welcome. I decided that I'm going to start doing more videos pertaining to BattleBots on the side. I mean, I'm still going to be doing my, game review videos. I have one coming out that'll hopefully drop this weekend sometime, but it's a lot of work. I put a lot of time in that, and I have some other ideas as well. But one of my biggest passions is BattleBots, obviously, because over the past few months I've done like a fan-made series. The finale of that should come out within the next few days as well, which is very exciting. I had a lot of fun doing that because Robot Arena 2 is awesome, and the Go to a Battle mod is awesome, and they're adding robots from this season to it. But yeah, the 2020 season is upon us. We finally got the field on the website as of today, so I'm gonna dive in, and I'm very excited to talk about the whole field. So bear with me. Okay, to start off, we know our first fight of the season, which is Kraken versus Black Dragon, which I feel like it's kind of a mismatch, at least for round one. Kraken could go 4-0 for all we know. I know someone who would be really happy for that, but considering Black Dragon is like made the round of 16, and Kraken didn't even come close to it, it just seems like something that could very well be like a mismatch of some sort to start off, or better yet, it's probably from round 2, because we have RUFF versus Copperhead, which was their second fight, I believe. So I don't know, I'm overthinking just this, but I want to look at the actual robots, so let's dig into this. I'm very excited to field this. Season is absolutely delightful. Okay, to start off, we have Aegis. Aegis? I'm probably pronouncing it. I'm bad at the pronunciation, but it's like it's a very pretty looking flipper robot. And it's made using almost every hand tool known to personkind. That's definitely very cool. Aegis, I feel like they're gonna get a win or two, because that flipper does look really solid, and it's probably the closest thing to a British flipper that we have this year, because obviously British flippers aren't a thing this year because the COVID and travel restrictions. Next up, we have Adam 94, which is one of the very few international teams. They're from both India and Canada, which is really cool. That's the first time we've had Indian representation in BattleBots. The spinner looks good, and it's got like 4 belts on it, so that should hopefully last the test of time. It's a little high up, but I could see Adam 94 doing pretty well. Next up, we got Axe Backwards, which, and they never really had like a super good year. This is their 3rd year, and between those 2 years, they're 1-7. It should be 2-6 because that doubled egg fight, terrible. But I love the spirit of this team, and it's a cool looking robot. I hope to see them do well and turn it around. That'd be very, very cool. Next up, we got Axolotl, which is a new robot that was actually built last second. It was partially crowdfunded, and they built it in like a month or something, I believe. It's just like a vertical spinner, and it's pretty small, a little bit wide, and it's pink. I'm all for the amphibious robots, so I look forward to seeing that in the box. Next up, we got Bale Spear, which I guess is the closest thing to a hometown team that I have this season, because I live in Pennsylvania, and the only robot from Pennsylvania we had last year was SubZero, and they're based in Texas now, so. But this is a robot from New Jersey, and definitely goes for that farmer shtick, Farmageddon, if you will. But it's As far as I know, the only pneumatic spike that's been in the reboot, besides apparently Basilisk had one at some point. You can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but yeah. So Bale Spear, I mean, obviously they're just here to have fun, and they're definitely one of my favorite robots because it's just a fun robot. You know, they were fun 2 seasons ago, and I was really happy to see them make a comeback. Now this one took everyone by surprise. This is the only, at least as far as I know, the only robot from the UK that actually appeared in this season. It's Beta. Beta's a crowd favorite. You know, there's a Beta Hexbug toy, which I have back there. I probably can't see it, but it's back there. You know, I mean, it's a classic robot, and I want to say it's the most successful hammer robot in the reboot. Correct me if I'm wrong, because they made the quarterfinals in their 1 season, and you know, I'm very excited to see them fight. They've made it over. The new design looks phenomenal, and I have high hopes for them, for sure. Now this one was probably the biggest surprise of all. Obviously, you already knew from the image saying we'll meet the 2020 robots, but we got Black Dragon this year, which, as you know, is a robot from Brazil. The actual Madman actually came up here, which is really cool. Spoiler alert, Minotaur did not make it this season, so what can you do? But Black Dragon, you know, looks beautiful like always. This is definitely one of the robots that I have as a contender for the nut, definitely. I feel like they definitely could win it all. Up next, we got Black Widow, which is Spider. You know, it's drum spinner, and I want to say those legs are sort of like the armor on Shatter. Like their intention is sort of to take a hit and, you know, come flying off and, you know, hopefully wear down the other robot. It's a fun robot, and apparently it shoots silly string out of its behind, which is pretty neat. You know, I definitely support that. Up next, we have Bloodsport, which definitely had a glow up from last year. Last year it was more of a circular robot. Now it's like square. It has like wedgelets. It has the really cool looking blade and the pole, which is it's weirdly shaped, but it's useful for self-riding. And then we have another really big surprise. We have Bronco coming back, which is a big surprise because everyone, you know, as anyone who's been following, you know, they said back when the season was supposed to air in April that they were going to take the year off, and I don't know, maybe the producers hit them up and were like, hey, we lost half of the field because of, you know, health pandemic and all that. Maybe they decided to come. I do have a theory that they're going to end up being on an exhibition robot as opposed to, you know, actually competing. I hope they're competing because Bronco's a joy to watch, and it's a lot of fun seeing him send things flying, and I could see him at least making a top 16. But either way, we should at least see a fight or two from him, which will be fun, hopefully as a full-on competitor. Up next, we have Captain Shrederator, which is, you know, they're one of the, I want to say there's 5 robots that have been in all 5 seasons, and Captain Shrederator is one of them. It's a full body spinner, and, you know, they've been doing the full body spinner design since the classic days, and ever since Frisbee, they've been a joy to watch, so I'm definitely excited. They haven't had the best of luck in the reboot, having, like, I want to say 2 wins between 4 seasons. So hopefully they can find their footing and, you know, get some knockouts in, because the thing does a lot of damage. It's just had issues with reliability and the fact that it's not invertible, which is always tough to do. Now this robot is something. So they did they added a new rule this year with the walkers. Back in the day, walkers got, I think, a 50% bonus. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. They got a 50% bonus, but now, this year, they got a 100% bonus. But it has to be like a legitimate walker with like joints in the legs and stuff. You know, it can't be like a shuffle bot that goes just as fast as a wheeled robot anyway, like how Son of Waiachi won the championship in season 3.0. Like, it has to be a legitimate walker and thusly be kind of slow. But there were supposed to be 3 robots that did that. One of them was Gloomweaver, who dropped out last minute. And there was like a mystery one that we still don't know who it was. But one of them did make it, and it's the new version of Chomp. Now, I know a lot of people get on Chomp, but like even the past iterations like have just been brilliantly designed, and the tech inside of them is incredible. And this is no different because it's like a deadly hammer on like a turret as it walks around with like a nice metal ring around it to protect the legs. But Chomp is definitely a robot that I look forward to seeing. I don't know if they'll win it all, but I mean, I feel like everyone's just kind of at that point where they're just wondering, how is the tournament gonna handle a 500-pound beast like that? Up next, we have Chronos, which is back from last year. I don't think they were initially supposed to come back, but they came back after the season got postponed, which I'm happy for because Chronos is freaking awesome. I love the aesthetic. I love ring spinners, so I'll absolutely take Chronos any day of the week. And we have a Claw Viper, which is I believe they're an offshoot of the Warhawk team, which, I mean, the Warhawk team has spawned like several other teams that we'll get into, but yeah, it's kind of like a modern complete control, if you will. It's like a grappling bot. It looks really good, and supposedly it's a pretty fast robot as well, so I'm looking forward to that. Up next is Copperhead. We got it looks pretty much the same as before, except like different color scheme, and obviously there's probably differences inside of it, but it's a very compact drum spinner. It did pretty good last year. Got what, like 2 wins, but they were pretty good wins. But Copperhead is definitely someone to look out for. I feel like they're gonna definitely hit the top 16 at least. Then we got Deadlift, which is this is the robot that supporters clinged on to, because if you're a supporter on BattleBots Facebook page for $5 a month, you get insider stuff. Like they revealed like most of these robots to us early. They show you like early pictures, you know, they show us the unaired fights first. It's definitely a cool package, and I just like to support the show. But Deadlift was like the one, because everyone else got revealed like, you know, like a few weeks after, and everyone was just like, oh, yeah, I can't wait to see the supporter bot fight when we're talking about in the public forum, because this was the only one that wasn't really showcased because they don't have much of a social media presence. But it's a lifter and it looks very sleek, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Another international team, we got Endgame. I feel like this is another one that might take it all, because it's a badass robot. It's definitely good. They're from New Zealand, and like the new version of it just looks phenomenal. I really hope they reach their potential this season. Then we got Extinguisher, which is always a fun robot. I mean, last year didn't have the best of luck. It went 1-3, and you know, had radio issues and stuff. But you know, that hammer hits really hard. It has a really tough looking vertical spinner that it can swap out too. So I feel like Extinguisher is gonna do better than last year at least. They're kind of my prediction for the death roll run, as I like to call it, where it's like a robot that didn't do so hot in the prior season comes back and just does awesome. Who do you think who's your death roll run bot this year? Let me know in the comments. We got Fusion, which is the new Waiachi robot. It's got the dual weapons. It's got a vertical spinner on the one side and it's horizontal spinner on the other side, which is definitely a really cool concept. And I look forward to seeing how it actually performs in the box. It looks wonderful. We got Gamma 9, which is a robot I'm very excited to see come back, because I mean they've been doing the things since the classic days. You know, they've been, you know, Gamatron, you know, Namrico 9000 I think is the name from the 99 events. Like this guy's been doing the robots, and they've all had that signature black dome since like the 90s. And this one looks very sleek. It looks kind of like the Batmobile, and it's really, really cool. It's a nice lifter. Now, this is my pick for the glow up of 2020 Gemini. It looks phenomenal compared to the last 3 seasons. They decided to swap out those discs with like bars that look like they could deal pretty good amount of damage, and I look forward to seeing them in the box. And it looks like they also have configuration where they have armor around the sides protecting it to sort of make it a spinner killer, if you will. Then we got Ghost Raptor, who's also back after taking off 2 seasons. Ghost Raptor is definitely a robot to look out for. They made the semifinals in their debut season, and it's got a horizontal spinner that can sort of go up and down, and it's, you know, hit based on elevation. I could definitely look forward to seeing them duke it out in the box. I could see that weapon doing a lot of damage. We got Gigabyte, which is another full body spinner, very damaging. You know, they did decently last year. They got, what, 2-2, but they beat Minotaur. That's something to be proud of for sure. You know, they haven't always been the most reliable robot, but I do got high hopes for them. They're definitely someone to look out for. We got Grabot, which is a new robot with like arms that go up and down. Apparently they can be swapped out for a bunch of other weapons as well. Like there's like little saws and like, you know, like little flails and stuff. Like, it's a neat thing, and I don't know what to expect out of it. That's the thing. It's like, I'm not saying I think it's gonna like win the championship, but I think Grabot could like surprise us and show us like some really cool fights. Then we got RUFF. RUFF is back from last year. It is a lifter, which also has really powerful flamethrowers on the side. And I mean, they made a lot of noise last year. They only went 1-3, but like all 3 of its losses, you know, Copperhead was a close decision, Tombstone was a close decision. Endgame, it was holding its own. It just happened to get stuck in the kills lost slot. So I have high expectations for it, and plus the new version just looks beautiful. Like it looks sleek. I like it. Next we have Hijinks, which is an undercutter, horizontal spinner. It's beautiful. I love it. It's a really nice looking robot, and you know, we spent months wondering like what is Hijinks, because you know, they didn't reveal. They told us it was coming. They were like, oh, we're building a robot, because it's former members of Team Scorpios, and you know, they're like, oh, this is happening, but they didn't really give us any indicator of what it was gonna be, and it was worth the wait. It looks beautiful, definitely. Huge is back. Huge is always a good time because it's such an unconventional design. You know, it's the big wheels with the vertical spinner in the middle. It's, you know, past 2 seasons it's gone 3-1 in its fight night and made the top 16 both times, and I think Huge is going to do well again this year. Next we have Hydra, which is a flipper. It's made the top 16 last year after going 4-0. Definitely a solid bot, and it's sort of like the head of the pack with the flippers at this point. Although I do hope that they give Hydra a more difficult schedule. Not that the robots it faced were objectively bad, but like, you know, when you're at like, you know, when you're dominating fights and you're getting robots to have like a 1-2 record, you know, it's kind of like, you know, give it something harder. Plus it showcased in its round of 16 fight with Minotaur that it wasn't particularly strong against, you know, like the vertical spinners, because Minotaur took it out like pretty fast. So hopefully it's, you know, fixed that. I'm assuming they've worked towards that to make it more sturdy and give it better defense. So hopefully Hydra will show. We got Hypershock, which is another robot I could see definitely winning it all. Hopefully they at least make the top 16 this year. They always, you know, they came pretty close. They came pretty close last year, but then they lost in their final fight to Huge. But you know, that's always been a really fun robot, super fun team. I'm happy that they're back, and they're one of the robots that has been in every season of the reboot. This is the new Ice Wave. I mean, everyone knows who Ice Wave is. I mean, it's been an iconic robot since the beginning of the reboot. You know, it used to be blue, but now it's more black, and its engine now has like a new housing on it. It's more of a slope, I guess, just in case, you know, it faces like something like Rotator, and, you know, instead of like jamming its blade into the engine, it might just like slide up, you know, sort of that strategy. But new Ice Wave definitely looks sleek. And we got Jackpot, which is, it's sort of like Death Roll in a way. Like, it has that general style, like the big red blade, and, you know, it's a pretty looking robot. This is another one of those ones that was made in like a month, and it looks great. The test box footage of it is just really impressive, and I think it'll do pretty good. Then we got Kraken, which is, you know, it's the only crusher this season because all the other popular crushers were overseas, bought Quantum, Petunia, etc. Kraken looks really good as usual. I mean, it's always been a beautiful robot ever since the beginning. This season's paint scheme is kind of like its past two seasons combined. And they have a little narwhal minibot named Wally. What more can you ask for? Lockjaw, definitely a robot I could see taking it all. They changed up the spinner a little bit to be one solid piece as opposed to like two next to each other. So I'm assuming that'll hit a little harder, but I feel like as long as they work on their reliability issues, they should go pretty far this season. I mean, they always go far, you know. Season 3 they went to the semis, last season they went to the quarters, you know, like, they're nothing to scoff at. This one's one of my favorites. This is Mad Catter. You know, it can be a vertical spinner or a hammer, similar to how Extinguisher is. You know, it's a modular sort of design. But Mad Catter is definitely... The thing I love about Mad Catter is its builder... The Mad Catter's builder is just such a colorful character. I want to see more screen time of him because he's great. But it's a tough-looking robot, too. You know, I feel like, especially with the vertical spinner design, you know, and it also has, like, lifters as well. I feel like it's going to do pretty well with that. Probably make the top 16, I'd imagine. I mean, they went 2-2 last year. So it's definitely not a bad robot at all. Next, we got Malice, which is, it's sort of like a spinning disc that you would normally see on a vertical spinner, but, like, it's horizontal, you know, it looks really good, and the spin-up tests were very impressive. I'm looking forward to that. We got Mammoth, which is the biggest robot. I mean, it's giant. It's basically a big frame, but it took everyone by surprise last year. You know, I didn't know what to think of it, but it went 3-3, which is impressive. It even gotten out of the arena, which is insane to think about. Looks like it did a little bit of modifications on like the ends of the rotary lifter, and like it covered the motors now with like those black covers. But yeah, Mammoth is definitely a really cool design. I'm happy that they're back. We got P1. So P1 is the only front hinge flipper. I love front hinge flippers. They're so much fun. And they didn't have the best of luck last year. They went 0-3 and they didn't seem to have their footing in quite yet. But hopefully they do this time, because I feel like with some reliability, this thing could go far. I mean, plus it's a race car. I mean, how do you not like race cars? Next up, we have Pain Train, which is sort of an egg beater spinner. It's small. This is another one that was made in like a month. There was a lot of robots this season that just like did last minute builds just because so many slots opened up. Plus, they have a dog on their team. I mean, how can you not? That gives them points right there. I mean, I hope they win it just because I want to see a dog win the championship. Oh, this one's cool. This is Perfect Phoenix. This is so the story of Perfect Phoenix is that Paul Ventimiglia, the guy who built Fight Force, he initially built this robot, which was originally called Brutality, which is overhead bar spinner, and he won the championship in 2009, I want to say. But he sold it to this kid. He's I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, a kid has a robot, but he has credentials. He's driven lighter robots, mostly like kit robots like Captain Doom, but this kid is like insane at driving. He's really good and in charge of like fixing up this robot was Ray of Tombstone, which it's like a super group of robot combat. And I can't wait to see how he drives, like a 250-pound machine. Up next is another robot that I'm pretty sure was a 1 month build. This is Rampage. I think the original was supposed to have a lifter, but I don't know if they didn't have the weight for it or something. I'm assuming that's what it was, but it's vertical spinner. It looks pretty good. Hopefully, as long as it works, it should do well. And now we have my favorite robot of all time, Ripod. I love Ripod. It's a frog. I mean, how can you not love frogs? But it comes with like the undercutter, and then it has the vertical spinner, of course. But they don't have the foam anymore. They have just the foam got banned because it was messy. I mean, realistically, yeah, it was. But the new robot, it looks phenomenal. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it fight, and hopefully it'll bring us home a championship because it's just a beautiful robot. Next up, we have a Rotator, which is it was initially 2 spinners. I'm assuming they probably could do that again this season. Just last season, the dual spinner setup broke early on, so they had to use this sort of setup, and it worked out for them. I mean, they got 2 wins, one of which was against Tombstone, which was still one of the best fights of the season. They aren't particularly built for like vertical spinners, but like if it's facing a horizontal, like Rotator knows what to do. I mean, they took out Ice Wave, they took out Tombstone. Really, really good robot. Oh yeah, we got Rusty, which is it's like a hammer bot, and I want to protect it. It's beautiful. It's got that DIY shtick to it, and it's Rusty. How can you not love Rusty? Next up, we have Sawblaze, which is another robot that I feel could win the 2020 season, because I mean they made the quarters last year, so I mean it's a good robot. It's well driven. Its weapon is pretty good. It's kind of got the best of both worlds. It can do damage, and it's a solid control robot. Then we got Sharko, which is now a lifter as opposed to the vertical spinner it was last time. It's sort of like, it's kind of like Rusty, how it has like the DIY aesthetic to it. But yeah, I can also grab on. Definitely looking forward to that. I'm all for any aquatic sort of robots. And we got Shatter, which is it's a powerful hammer robot that also, it has like armor that if you hit it, it just like rips off, and the actual robot isn't really damaged. And it also has special wheels that make it go side to side. I mean, they did a nice skit explaining it on the actual show last season. It did, I want to say it was like 2-2 robot, which isn't bad. That's not a bad record to have. Hopefully they do better this season. I'll be rooting for them. We got Scorpios, who's back. Scorpios is kind of like the dark horse for me. I feel like they could go super far and nobody really thinks about it, you know. 2 years in a row, they were kind of like on the bubble. Like in 2018, they made, I feel like I want to say they made the top 16, but like their blade got ripped off by Rotator, so they didn't want to, you know, move on with like an angle grinder, so they just opted to not enter the tournament. And last season they had a play-in match, but they lost it. But definitely a cool robot that I'm looking forward to. Next we have newcomer Slapbox. So this is a lifter of sorts. It's got like hands all over it, and I like the color scheme. It's really fun to look at. I want to say they did decently at the Orlando Maker Fair, so they've got some merit to it. So Slapbox, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Slammo, which is one of the ones I'm most excited for. It's you know, like a grabber, lifter, you know, suplex sort of robot. And they have tons of different configurations. You know, they built this team built Foxtrot and Predator in the past, or Foxic if you're into the non-BattleBots events, but Slammo is a really cool robot. And I really hope they do well. That'd be phenomenal. Next one, this one's fun. This is Smee, yeah. But basically, this is they sort of went the route Huge went. Huge began as like this experimental, like, you know, lighter robot that eventually they were just like, let's try it in the 250-pound category, because there's a Beetleweight 3-pound version of Smee that's like basically two kits with a big wedge, you know, bridging them together, and they decided to do that here. Only this time the two sides each have each has like an undercutter spinner, and that wedge can like fold. I mean, you can, I don't know if you can tell, but like there's like little folds in the middle there that kind of make it wrap around, and it can like take out like wheels and stuff. This one is probably the biggest. I know I said that about like 3 other robots, but this is probably the biggest surprise, because we literally did not know this was a thing until this website update. This is Son of Waiachi. I mean, Team Waiachi has 3 robots in this tournament already. They have Hydra, they have Fusion, and then they have Sao, which I'm very excited to see. And I feel like just a shot in the dark, I feel like Sao is going to wind up being like an exhibition sort of robot. Like, it's not actually going to be competing, kind of like how Nightmare was last year. But either way, it's cool to see them, because, you know, this is the only classic era robot that's still competing. I think I might be missing one off the top of my head, but, you know, Son of Waiachi is always a welcome addition. This one I love this robot so much. This is Sporkanok. It's got a lifter, and it's got like a spork that it can hit people with. It's a beautiful robot. I was kind of following them before the season was announced, and I kept telling them on Facebook, I'm like, I want to see you guys actually be at BattleBots, and now they are, so I'm very happy to see that. SubZero is back. They used to be my hometown robot when they were Pennsylvania based, but now they're based in Texas. But it looks good. It looks beautiful, and I really hope that it can perform better than last year. I feel like last year was kind of a fluke in a way. Like, they had their first fight against Cobalt, and then they just kind of never recovered. Although they got a nice out of the arena on P1, which that fight was insane. But SubZero, I got high hopes for them. I think they'll do pretty good this year. Tantrum, I love Tantrum. It's such a cool concept. Basically, it's got a spinner that's on like sort of like rails, and it like shoots forward, and you know, if you're on its front and it hits you, you know, it's gonna hit you pretty hard. This season they have, you know, their fists now do like self-right, which is definitely welcome because they had a problem with that last season. Next we got the Big Dill, which is it's sort of like a lifter. It has like the design where it has like the prongs sticking out, so it can kind of like grab you and like suplex you if it wants. But that's another robot along with Mad Catter and Claw Viper. That's sort of an offshoot of the Warhawk team. Warhawk is not competing this year, unfortunately, but we got the Big Dill, and I'm very excited to see them in action for sure. Next up we have Tombstone, which is, it's Tombstone. I don't think I need to explain that one further. Next up we have Tracer, which is another new robot. It's the builder built someone from the classic era that like lost in the first round, so it's like a glow up, you know, because this thing is amazing looking. It's, you know, a vertical spinner. It's got little mini bot that should be able to be a nuisance to the opponent, but the spinner looks like it hits pretty hard, and I could see Tracer being like a sort of a dark horse this season. Uppercut is next. We got Uppercut. Uppercut is, I mean, they were kind of like, they were the dark horse last season, I feel, because nobody really expected anything, and then they made the top 16, you know, going, you know, 4-2 for the season. You know, that's not bad. And then they lost the Bite Force in the round of 16 because it's Bite Force. Everyone loses the Bite Force unless it's Chomp. But yeah, Uppercut definitely, I think it'll do pretty good. Valkyrie, I love Valkyrie. It's such a, I love undercutters, and this is their third season, and both seasons it's had before, it's been kind of like Scorpios. It's been very close to making the top 16, but didn't quite make it. But I'm hoping they make it this year because it's a cool looking robot, and it's always really fun to watch. Then next up we have War. Easy. It's vertical spinner. It's kind of like, sort of reminds me of Hypershock in a way. It's basically like that. But it looks good. I like the color a lot. So War, easy, definitely. They should have some fun fights for sure. And then we got the last two. We got Whiplash. I feel like it's a shot in the dark, but I feel like Whiplash is going to be the one to win it this season. That's my bet. I mean, you can watch back to this video in 6 months and tell me how wrong I was, and I'll accept that. But that's who I think is going to take it, because it's just so well driven, such a cool design. And out of the big ones, like, you know, like your Tombstones, your Bite Force, your Witch Doctors, I feel like Whiplash is my favorite one. Plus it has a configuration this year where it's just a lifter. I'm assuming they made that so in case they fight Tombstone again, because then they can use that weight from the spinning weapon to actually armor its front and hopefully beat Tombstone this time. And last but not least, we have Witch Doctor, which is I mean, Witch Doctor is one of the best robots there. They could easily take the championship too, no doubt. I mean, they almost did last year. They made the finals and they won the Amazon Remars event. But Witch Doctor, I mean, it doesn't look really too changed from last year. I'm sure there's internal stuff that was changed from last year, but I know they were on the fence of on whether or not to actually compete, you know, because health crisis and all that. But yeah, so Witch Doctors gonna be good. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the 2020 season, and I'm gonna be, you know, taking a look at every episode as they air, you know, so expect weekly uploads as soon as the season starts airing in December. So you're gonna want to subscribe for that, because this is huge. It's gonna be a really cool season, and I can't wait to talk about it.